That's not really the mic.
Emanating Sovereignty. I, in the ever-present moment of now, call upon my higher self purpose of being the I am direct in this no-time moment of moments. I call out to the ancestors who walk in union and communion along with this I am. I call upon the ancestors, those who came before me and walk with this self in the now. Thank you for loving me. I now return the call and choose in this sacred source empowered moment to love myself free. All perverted love energies, all false love with any sort of strings attached that could ever attach me in any way, shape, or form to what is not my higher purpose, is hereby outed to the whole of the universe and released. Release your hold and step away, step out of this universe now, for you are outed. All troll energies hereby kicked out of this recording through all time streams and dimensions, galaxies and universes, through time and space. I exercise my right to bless and pray in an authentic manner of transferring love. Manifested love. Being one with the ever-evolving nature of spirit reality within this physical world. Every perception and concept at all which enforce a past belief in self as being anything that is not good enough is hereby given their pink slip and kicked out. Your services are no longer required. All souped up myth-powered energies which are not sourced in this I am is infinitely and eternally released. For as this heart in which sourced flows, this I am presence is my home frequency. This love which I grew has an ever-evolving natural state of being. For all words and all spells of dissolution of the self are now fully dissolved and no longer permitted within this I am heart's moving frequency of time, this living, breathing spiritual chord of alchemical equity. This self I grow is one with freedom's essence. The light and dark in my own version of it, that only I can understand as my own authentic source incarnated, as this source incarnate, as the being of the now. You, past self, who is and was still growing, I have been there for you to receive. As we exchange light codes in the truth of magnificent co-creation within the whole, I thank you for creating, so that I may enter the dark room and see the pictures hanging as fully exposed and ready to receive, ready to come out and receive sunlight. Grandfather's son, I honor you. I bask in the gift of living truly as the natural state being in which I share through free will choice to, and bringing only those who I choose in my higher self purpose, who truly aid me in my letting go to the love. I am the plan. As the sacred fires burn, I dance in spirit. I move within it, in movement. I allow the inner fires to commune in ceremonial dance together with every ancestor of the past and future here standing by, unwrapping their feet and entering the earth heartbeat drum into this circle. I love in my own style of abundance and flow. Thank you, Creator, For I have been one with you as my individual self, being one with the true collective of free I am presences upon my earth mother. All my friends and family, my roots are sacred. I now walk into the fires of pure creation with no fear in each step, and I accept myself. I am moving forth in spirit, in power, in this body. I remain in the heart. And now return to the love that I birth and flow freely. My name is Ryan Eichmann, here on Emanating Sovereignty on Saturday, April 27th. And I have Eric Adamo here as well with opening prayer and poetry coming from the same heart-spaced self-connection in which he's sharing as well as my sharing. And I thank you, all who are here.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for that beautiful tone, beautiful message. The words within the words beyond the words, the meaning that is emanated in sovereignty across all timelines, dimensions, and realities, literally putting a whole new meaning to what it means to read and understand in between the lines. And I share with each of you and all of us a poetic message about transformation and ascension from a nonlinear format of time. A poem that's both an activation and a aspect of realization. This poem I called very simply Transformational Ascension. It exists on one of my blog WordPress platforms. It's all about peacemaking and peacekeeping in an entirely holistic way. The poem goes as such. Treat it like a guided meditation, treat it like an activation, and treat it like a sacred ceremonial realization. You'll be surprised by the miraculous experiences. Transformational ascension seems whole and complete. In the silence, yet the exuberance of our hearts, you can still heavenly happily hear the solar winds beautifully brightly blowing from within and throughout, as a type of cosmic musical choir, and filled with galactic kins chanting to their sovereignly emanated sire, in a sacred symphony attunage for pro-peaceful martial arts near the temple ruins of mountains' edges. Throughout this grand interstellar starlit show is where the reflective sweet dreams and sweethearts reveals the next great quantum jumpstart. Galactic waves as space weather shaves smoothly with alchem's razors appeared to be as metallic colored as platinum, silver, titanium, toroidal propeller blades, where these ships hide to reside in their own stealthy shades. The final spiritual Jedi Master teaches and teaches as she teaches and gives her last alchemical final exams of Ascension's graduation grades. For the best of such, unlike March's sanctified saneness, to get through May's much harshest of muck in all out safeness, in sheer heavenly and earthly good luck. So shall the source of soulful serene nexus XYZ 0 points as conal cornucopia anti-cataclysmic catacombs. These ascension fallout shelters guide, prepare, and bless us with multidimensional vortice joints, doing more than ET's phoning home, that are white to blue spherical stargates that are cozy, warm, fuzzy nooks and knolls. These are heart wombs and spirit cocoons, sacred sites all throughout the planet. Galatron dances on. Oriontron prances brighter than the local sun. Metatrons, angelic superhumans in eco-co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order assist us in our heavenly and divinely destined days. For these are the great awakened times. We shall profess our new global spiritual waves and rhymes as we confess the end of the old patriarchal atomic radioactive clocks and their outdated space navy's docks. Chimes, trumpets, cellos, and crystal bowl symphonies, chanting and toning and mantraing light language harmonies, making you marvelously mellow, yet powerfully peaceful, as it removes the dark toxins of yellow. And when these set in as crafts, sovereignly emanating, cutting the old nets from false sin, so you shall set sail to salvation's whole new holonautical veils, with hydrodynamic fission as psionic fusion, along the oceanic shores and seabed surfaces. It's aligned to past, present, future, the supergalactic rhythms and the superconscious schisms attuned to supergalaxies' trees of life, eternal life, with universal creations and universal citizens, sacred geometry arts, in an amazingly powerful, benevolent emanations, approved by the other worldly alliances, councils, generations, like Cosmic League of Star Nations, all for the better. A providence, a provincial world, oasis in paradise, and a utopian, healthier, happier life. We are the daughters of paradise and we are the sons of paradise. And we bring to you messages that take you from hope to creation and to life anew. It is so, and so it is.
Yeah. Wow, that was a powerful way to begin a show, to say the least, and to anchor in all that was said. I'm gonna allow just a second for everyone to just settle into all these new energies and what was actually exchanged just now. Thank you. Thank you.
The good thing about this poem, there are many more similar to that on my blog that I was keeping pretty active last year. As I moved to Shasta, and we can all agree when we move or even stay for short periods of time near sacred sites, one of a few things will happen, if not all of them at the same time. And one of those things for sure is creativity will soar in a whole new way where stagnancy was there before. And or healing will happen in a way that you go beyond this point of healing into transformation, awakening, and activation. And I realized there came a point where it wasn't about healing anymore. It was about transformation and experiencing ascension as an everyday thing, not just through theory in a book or through theory in a channeled message, but every day out there emanating that sovereignty and experiencing that in a poetic way, in an artistic way, in a creative way, and being okay if there's a pause and a break on certain days, knowing that pause and that break is okay because their whole new essence of flourishing energy comes in for whole new creations and whole new ideas, to the point where I started realizing there's innovation happening, there's invention happening, there's epiphanies streaming through, There are downloads and uploads happening. And in one key part of that poem I wrote, it was saying a goodbye and a farewell to the old patriarch and the old ways that the space program keep things secret. And it was saying hello to a whole new type of first contact, where we're not only waiting for first contact to happen, we are the first contact that will happen as the apex of our own reality. So there are just as many beings multidimensionally that would like to experience that contact just as much as we would. And it happens in one of a few ways. In one of those ways, it doesn't happen through, as we know, toxic hope. It doesn't happen through pining, and it doesn't happen through blind faith. It happens through absolute knowing and pure faith and pure truth. And that pure truth is universal among all species. So as long as it's done in non-harm and non-cruelty and non-violence, and in that, you'll receive your first contact. You'll receive your mystical experience, and it'll happen daily. It'll happen every single moment of your life. And probably one of the best mystical experiences when you know you tap into that field of unlimited creativity, and it gets really fun and juicy and exciting after that, because that field of unlimited creativity is where you can both profit monetarily and profit spiritually, and it's a win-win for all sides.
Exactly. And that's, you notice it in your flow that you are living what you're saying. You can, because you see how Eric can easily relate these higher dimensional messages and the little nooks and crannies of the gray areas that usually the light workers get stuck on, where they're stuck in the clouds and not too much stuck in the ground, or they're so stuck in grounding that they are not pleasant to be around because they don't take, they
Right.
smell like the ground. I mean, it's the balance. And I see Eric Adamo as someone who has went into the fires of creation and pulled out some gold through sifting through each day, and each day reminding you of the mystical connection to what it is to be an I am here, what it actually means in each word and each undercurrent. And you only know this through living it. No one can really live your life for you.
Right.
Which is a very reason I'm honored and respect you very much. And I'm honored to have you on my show, Eric. And we did a nice sort of intro when I was setting up, the correct camera spot. But again, this is Emanating Sovereignty, and I have Eric Adamo. I've been off from this show for the past year, working on global type of things, universal citizen healing system, what that actually means, and I've gained a lot of stories and a lot of movement, while I walk. I realize I walk with many different people with me, just like all those other people who are open to that. The physical state is as much as you feel it is. You could exist outside of your body. The spiritual state is as much as you're going to feel it. Is it a synchronicity? Is it a coincidence? Is there a reason that when I have this internal dialogue or internal emotion, that someone across the street is, doing their reaction at the exact same time? And then we get to the core of what we're actually doing here, what this talk is actually about.
Yeah.
And it's not just to exchange karma for karma's sake, because that's the system, and that's what we've, learned from the system, the same cycles of repetition without the illumination. And both myself and Eric have learned a lot from Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic Historian. We're a couple of the only people that got our GHDs.
Yeah.
During his 2017 event. But it's only because we realize truth when we see it, and having this any template you have, you're able to plant your own seeds, and what grows is really coming from you. Because that's the old karma way of exchanging, saying, I only learned because of this person's teaching, or I only got healing because of this person I go to, only the one person. But really, it is about accepting the healing and the greater wisdom coming forth at all times, even with the small things. And, you know, moving the karma out of the way is kind of as easy as a flick of the wrist in some instances. It's saying no in your auric frequency to all that endless repetition cycles, and saying yes in your auric frequency to breathing. And at least the question of, if I could do something to change the outcome, would I? You know, and that sort of question can bring about your separation of density from that old big dense ball of the system of jobs, master slave, the whole myth of the country based on slavery, you know, the genocide, all those suicide words, or, you know, because the charge is also carried in the words. Because when I was 7 years old and I said the word sovereign, or let's say I said the word bat, maybe I was thinking of a baseball bat at the time, but I say the word bat now, and it could just be like a flick of the eyes, or it could be signifying rebirth, like the bat actually represents, you know. So again, this is just to see reality different and offer something that people can unpack on themselves, from themselves. And we're not offering anything at all. It's not about a thing. It's about, oh, look, you have a fire inside you, an inner fire, inner wisdom, inner passion that maybe just wants some friends to help kindle with, or wants a healer to exchange energy with, so that they can let you in on their well. So I'm again honored to have you here. Would you want to give any short bio, or what drew you to Mount Shasta in this last move?
Mount Shasta has been a choice of choices through many trials and errors, through living at many places. As some of us might understand what it's like to be nomadic or pilgrimaging to different places and sites around the world, I've come to the conclusion that if you're going to choose home, as I did, if you're going to do it as an audience or as a friend or as family or anything, choose a home that you feel most at peace with, and a home that has soul family in it, and a home that isn't going to hold and lock you down into agreements that you didn't make many years ago, or you know that you weren't a part of those agreements from lifetimes ago. So in this transcendence, I'll call it, across the United States, driving my car across the US on my own with guides, spirit guides, and friends and soul family to kind of, you know, be a part of the camaraderie along the way. It was a huge wave of transition across the US, and it took multiple attempts to get here and to land here in Mount Shasta. It took as many attempts as it did many years ago when I first went to Mount Fuji. And I realized that those two mountains and other mountains alike are mirroring each other. They're sister and brother of each other. And it felt to me that Mount Shasta, of all places, I would be able to flourish and grow and evolve in a manner that I can test and prove that I am growing and evolving. And it's harder to test that in higher dimensions than it is in the 3D. 3D, you can test it and when it comes to mystical experiences and different spiritual abilities and phenomena, the tests usually all go down to how much belief I have, or how much conviction I have, or how much even authentic faith and love that I have. So being in Mount Shasta showed me all the abilities I have in this life and have had in other lives, and which ones do I pick and choose in this life to bring about the greatest happiness for all sentient kind. And the one of the most significant mystical connections that was made still to this day, hard to prove, but know that it's happened, is an interconnection with the inner earth, known as the being of Telos. And after fully settling in Mount Shasta, I realized they were connecting with me and others for many lifetimes and realities and decades. But it wasn't until I fully settled in that I realized there was a living, tangible, physical proof. And I didn't start asking for proof until I got here. Asking for proof and having faith and waiting for it in the innocence is different than demanding proof and waiting for it with an expectation or an outcome. So I learned with the faith that I had combined with asking for living, physical, tangible proof, basically in that innocence, that's when those living, breathing, physical, tangible signs started to happen with Telos, including Sasquatch, occasionally some different types of interdimensional beings and extraterrestrials. And I still, to this day, I found it hard to believe, but at the same time, glad that it finally started to flourish and happen, because there's a tangible side to spirituality and the metaphysics, and there's an intangible side, both sides combined and balanced in the grounding and the connection, vertical connection to above and the vertical connection below helps to bring about that centered energy and that centered attitude. So Mount Shasta was a choice of choices over the course of, I think, many lifetimes, dimensions, and realities. And even if this one lifetime was all there was, it still was quite a challenge to be able to get here, anchor in, meet different soul family, make the connections happen, and still have the ability to freely move and drive and navigate all throughout. And that's the awesome feeling about all this, is that home, yes, is a place within the heart where the heart lies, but home is also an experiential place where you know that you have a lot of room for freedom. Sometimes it may not be total freedom. We all know as sovereign beings what total freedom is, but having a lot of room for freedom here in Shasta is really awesome, because that's one of the main reasons why I'm here and why I keep flourishing and prospering here.
Yeah, and that's amazingly stated and shared, right? And something about Mount Shasta is you'll go there and then you'll find out. But you go there and it's a whole different vibe. There's the different people who are just nomadic travelers who will go there and flock there at certain times. There's people who live there who, if you actually sat down and learned some of their story, you'd be blown away. I mean, I remember one time I was camping there, not on Buddy Flats, but I was camping somewhere kind of lower. And I was walking and I walked up to the parking lot area and then I walked back down. And I happened to get pulled over by this woman who was like, "Hey, do you need a ride?" I was like, "Yeah." And she happened to be like best friends with the person who wrote the Telos books. Her name escapes me as of now, but that reading those Telos books drew me to Telos because it's contained within the writing. Just like how when you're reading a book about alchemy, one that I read was Saint Germain on Alchemy, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and the her husband, who was receiving all that information and just disappeared, you know. But Elizabeth Clare Prophet's book, I think his name was Mark Prophet.
Yeah.
That contains so many things that the layers of perception will pick up on depending on where you're at while you're reading that type of signature frequency teaching of alchemy. Because whenever you get into coded words, you realize that those codes have also been concurrently running as those mental agreement codes had been running. So that's kind of the matrix, you know, seeing the movie The Matrix, where Neo sees all those 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, all the binary numbers. People have translated the universe into numbers so that they can see patterns, just pattern recognition. So in these sort of coded teachings where they're coming from Hollow Earth, coming from someone who went into a channeling state, or the channeling state just came right to him and slapped him in the face saying, hey, look at your connection. You're way more powerful than you've been leading on, you know, and they'll code that in their writing. And again, like just what we said about dealing with karma, this karma of this system of domination and control, it takes that one little slight change to get out of their system, which is only based on predictive model for pattern recognition, to put into words. So if you get out of that and you do give that little space, and then you do a tilt, or you know, something like that, or just write the words in a certain way, it'll allow you to flow this sort of code that's like a source code, so that the layers of perception coming at it will be able to nibble out whatever they need, get this part, or eat the whole thing if they're the signature frequency match. So with that being said, I say that to say this. I read the Telos books back in like 2013, and you do meditations in the book to actually enter Telos and go to the different temples that were there for each of the 7 sacred rays. Like the Violet Flame is the Saint Germain is the Cohen of the Violet Flame.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's all these different stories about this whole different reality that's here. Some people hear the word Hollow Earth and it doesn't ring any bells. Some people think of flat Earth as soon as they hear that, or they hear of conspiracy being peddled because of all the repetition of life in the system, and you know, track this, be tracked, you know. There's only 2 choices. Yeah, that's all the same thing as dualism and duality. And when you do see these signature frequency books or healers or writers, and they're capturing their source code unhindered, then anyone coming to it will be able to gain, because they're coming at it in an unhindered way of exchanging energy through source connection. So just reading those books, a couple years later, I ended up there too, in Shasta, and it is an amazing town. It's a place. I first went there in Weed, and stayed in Weed the first time, and then I went camping from then, and it's a place people will describe in so many different ways. Some people say there's dark rituals happening. Some people say it's the only place that they can do their light work or be real. And you know, it offers all these different things. But through the times I went to Berryville between jobs, I used to work during a season of trim cannabis when it was still illegal for recreation there. But in between, I would go to Shasta and I would actually take baths in a certain area in the stream, and it was so beautiful. But every time you go to the main shop there that has natural food, things like that, there'll be people who will automatically give an easy sort of response if you're looking for a connection. Because everything does happen for a reason, and your soul family is around you and they're kind of pulling the strings on all the electricity that we tune into and magnetism we tune into, because no one here listening is alone. And there's people just like Eric who have done the teachings of that truth that you're not alone and gotten past that so they can share it. And then they honed what it is that they actually are. Like, you know, people say, I am the I am presence. How? I mean, that's so fucking, that's so free, that's so true. But now what are you using your I am for? And how much is your I am right now attached to some I ams of the past because the story of our life or whatever reason. So recently I've been learning about words, etymology, coding, and I notice all the different layers that you'll naturally put into your speech too. So that's amazing, and kudos and props to you as well. So in the past, you did mention the different sort of technology inside of the crystal grid, namely in Shasta, and the different natural power plants that we exchange with. Did you want to go into anything about crystals or some sort of tools that you can offer the audience for them to get involved with their own tools, or maybe, I don't know if you're offering any products, anything you want to share about the tool making?
Yeah, at the present moment, in this this ever-present moment, it's been kind of ongoing, and that is the continuous realization of our beingness as crystalline, photonic beings of light. And the crystalline grid is a very real, tangible grid once you tap into the either the intangible side of it or the, I'll call it the realization side of it. Sometimes one happens first where people will just realize it and read about it, and then they'll get very curious and then start wanting to collect and start wanting to um
Hello, Elsa. If you could just mute while you're here, or go to the public link. But or if you're here, just go ahead and mute so while answering.
Hi, I'm not sure how to mute. I just clicked on it.
Oh, okay. Are you on a phone or a computer?
I'm on a laptop.
Okay, well, all right. Well, Eric, if you'd like to just continue, you can. I can put in the chat the link to the public.
Yeah, there's a public one and a broadcast one. And it's also interesting synchronicity that Lisa would show up because of many things, but that's many stories that led us here to where we are now. There's a whole soul family of people out in Lake Erie area of Ohio and Lakewood, and I know that many different experiences have happened, both mystical and even a bit scary, where targeting, psychic targeting was involved, but we're not in that reality anymore. Things have changed and morphed to the degree in which we are empowered to be able to create our own tools and create our own alchemical formulas. And those different tools and alchemical formulas help us to give fuel to our light body and give fuel to our empowerment, instead of giving power and energy away to the system, and no longer giving power and energy away to the cabal or the fear mongers. We bring it back into 0 point, back into the center, and the center of the creations that have come about over many years has led me to this point now, working with crystals in a whole new omnimorphic fashion. And a lot of us can agree and even relate to when we walk into either a crystal store or a shop, or even when we're gifted a crystal or given a crystal. We are always wondering, what are the metaphysical properties of these crystals? How are they aligned and activated? What is their purpose? And in what ways can they bring us the greatest good for all sentient kind? And in the last couple months, even teaching one, crystal gridding workshop in Canada, which wasn't that successful. But honestly, one of the reasons why it wasn't was I wasn't ready yet in one way, and maybe the people in the audience weren't ready yet. And secondly, it goes kind of to the beginning of what Ryan was reading in his initial prayer. There was someone in that class that was a troll, that was a naysayer, that was really hell bent on trying to sabotage what was just pristinely fine in an innocent way, but because of that impatience, it turned into a bit of sabotage. And on any journey and path, and any regimen, and any thing we're going to choose to build and create and form with, we must have patience with ourselves, patience with our teachers, patience with the knowledge that's coming at hand, patience with even ascension, patience with contact. Patience is a virtue to a certain degree and point. And then if impatience comes in, that's where that odd form of sabotage could happen. And that's pretty much what occurred. But in that moment when I thought I failed, immediately started to get epiphanies and downloads about how to create other types of grids, how to even grid the East Coast of the United States to the West Coast of the United States and North America, and fortify the crystalline grid to prevent the darkness, call them what you will, from further coming in and further causing any more harm. That crystalline gridding process took place over the course of at least a decade, and continuous work, continuous ceremony, continuous processes. That in itself is a whole teaching, is a whole curriculum, that in itself is a technology, and even a product unto its own, how to grid on a global level. But I'm narrowing it down to where people can have different kits, crystal gridding kits available to them. We always have the crystals in our pockets, or occasionally crystals and orgone devices. But having pre-made kits, step 1 to step 10, or however many steps there are, to create different types of grids that are already well designed and well thought out, such as this type of design that you see right here. This here, we always wonder if luck is even real, if there is such a thing as good luck. And this comes from a particular manual and book. Any gridding book will come in handy. And that design right here, most of the time in books, they're recommending putting it on a table, a flat surface, outside. But I realized I can either laminate this paper, color it in, laminate it, tack it to the wall, and then put the configuration around it, from the center focus point to the overall intention, and to the overall manifestation. And here's jade, 2 different kinds of jade, 6 to 12 of them, and then citrine, and then a blue gold, and then down there is this type of crystalline sphere is a jade gem that's pretty expensive, and then we have the aqua aura, or the spirit quartz. This took several nights designing in my mind in the last couple months of how to make in a very unique type of way. And there's other grids that are available to us that you can make in the exact same way. And I realized that the whole kit that's already made for the person, or even the instructions, like how-to instructions for sale, is another way of looking at it. And the design originally came from this book right here. But
And
this book doesn't have the actual download of what I made and what I made there. And the way to make it even there, you might assume, well, just put it all together and put it up. There's a whole activation sequence. And either your higher self and super conscience and your angels can guide you to that activation sequence, or someone like me can pre-make a kit that is already activated, and all the person or customer has to do is press purchase and buy, and you get the wealth kit, or the prosperity kit, or the abundance kit, or the good luck kit. There's even other ones that are for protection, for romance. And these kits are a whole new innovative way of looking at gridding and working with gridding, no differently than how we used to work with, Legos as kids or puzzles. And it is really innovative. And I feel that something like this can get so big where we're not even laminating it on paper anymore. We're actually infusing the crystals in cement, or infusing them in the wood. So there's carpentry and stonework involved, a very transcendent form of masonry. So imagine the same type of grid in cement and it's solidified there, or the same type of grid solidified in wood and then it's built into the house or built into some kind of structure. There's a whole reality of gridding that hasn't been really touched upon, other than when we look at it on a flat surface. It's different when it's stuck up on a wall, or above a door, or above the window, or in a bathroom, or even in a car, right where we're driving, right above, stuck up right above our head, and that gridding energy infuses down. And there's all different ways of gridding a house, a home, property, the different rooms of a house, home, and property. And there's all these different ways of gridding even your land and even your entire town. If you want to get bold enough to read a revocation, an invocation, and a prayer, and then begin gridding your town, do so under the merit that you're giving offerings and blessings to the town, to the land. You're not trying to change the people, but you are morphing with the crystalline grid that's already at play. Because in ancient times and somewhat present day modern times, there are feng shui masters that grid their entire town using the art of feng shui, either in Asia or India. In India, it's Vastu, yeah. And in America, we need to remember that art of bringing blessings and offerings to our town and our city. And we sometimes wonder, why is our town this way, or why is the city that way? Well, if you fortify the grid, crystalline energetics, you will bring back that holistic balance the moment you discover your north, your east, your south, and your west, and your central pillars around your town. And you could begin gridding not only your home and your car, but the entire area you live in. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is genius, and that's something very unique to offer, that sort of advanced wisdom that's already been used. Because anyone who looks at a map, go to Google Maps, type in the name of your city, you realize gridding is there. Gridding is the reason that the mailman has a place to deliver your mail to, or the in your mind, which uses the signs around your house to navigate. If that wasn't gridded out by these different technology of this sign that has a word on it that says Ash Avenue, or you know what I mean, the gridding wouldn't work. So this is a universal truth that we, as the beings of the now who are here coming from heart, trying to just love and live, you know, without being thwarted and stomped on for being ourselves, and wanting to claim our roots back from the system that gridded us, threw a saddle on our consciousness. So with these sort of kits or devices, tools, maybe you can make your own tool and you place it in a specific grid that you're seeing is there. Most likely you'll be tuning into some natural magnetism to a grid that was existent before they put on the grid saddle of the city. Because that's kind of this difference between false light and light. Or that's kind of a deep thing to say in that sentence, but what happened here on Earth was people put a saddle on it and they're like, I'm the architect. You know, yeah, they'll go there to work, they'll go there to school, they're gonna go up here on this side of the map. That look, it looks like a circuit board. Oh, look at that. That's the power plant there. You know, when people realize that and they're like, no, this tree here, since I have my bounds of, you know, north is that way, I'm gonna go ahead and see where the land wants me to, the land is calling for protection. I'll see that and I'll go ahead and put a device that I made from my heart, where I went to someone and exchanged dollar bills for something, because everything is energy exchange. So those who don't have the time to put in hours and hours into their tools for gridding can go to someone and then they exchange their hours and hours that they put into the money, switch as an equal exchange. Because that's another thing too, about different light workers out there who are offering their service, but they can't take any sort of money retribution. They're just being a vulture for themselves. They're just, you know, like a zealot. They're just giving away their skin and bones and their meat and grits and saying, no, I chastise the way that other people exchange because I see it as fiat. And they're shooting themselves in the foot. Because how are we going to make things better if we're not here to apply it? And we're not here to actually be the person that we grew as the offspring of that little kid that we used to grow as, and bring all this knowledge with us in the actions. And then you create the project from that knowledge that's already coming from the wisdom there. So having advanced know-how, such as what you got, as I can see and hear through your heart and your sounds, you can tell where you're coming from, and that you've seen it work, and we all know that the gridding works. Otherwise, we wouldn't believe in the Roman numeral time system so much. So I've also seen that as well. It's just I see it as people going around taking claim to the architect. The architect would be source, great mystery, the great spirit within great mystery. The reason that we say that there's a reason, you know, there's an underlying natural currency of Earth that's underneath all the money that we're exchanging on it, on the board, on the monopoly board. It's underneath everything, and it's within one choice away from us. We can choose to say, you know, I'm not going to react. I'm going to go ahead and ask the question, what does my heart feel? And then you do it, you know, and you'll instantly go back into your core, and you'll have a knowing of how sweet and delicate your core is, which is why we need to grid our property with our core tools. Otherwise, we would have to stand there. We'd have to go stand there, move over here, cyclically move as the weather changes or the city's energy changes, just like birds. But if you put a tool there, you can even have it with a specific purpose of interacting with the birds that come in and bless the land, the different deer, and all the beings that are coming in peace is what is allowed through these specific products and gridding toolkits. So I think that that's a genius idea, and I know that that will be blowing up, you know, pretty soon. As everybody's seen the changes going on in the past 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So it's like we're preaching to the choir,
Mm-hmm.
but really everyone is honing their instrument in the choir, because we can't be chastising the ones who play the shadow role. We just say, oh, look, they're in the shadow role, I'm in my role, you know, and we continue forward, and we'd have to do the hard work of breaking the connections and contracts we had with the people still sucking on the teat of that old saddle or that old grid or the old things that they thought they were, and not even able to be like, okay, I'm going to make a tool to protect myself. Or I'm going to wear this certain device to protect myself, you know, because they don't want to do anything that's untrackable, anything that's spontaneity, just flowing forward, even if you have to laugh through it. That's that's why I like when I slip up on words, because it gives me a reminder to just laugh, and then I'm preaching to the choir. So it's been an amazing journey so far, just honing my I am technology as well, and learning, you know, specifically about what you bring to the table and how much it really is paralleling what I've been into as well. Knowing the power of the grid, you know, like what you just showed, that is a unique device. And it doesn't matter how much myth empowers someone whenever they're coming to that unique device, that is a unique device. So that's amazing that you're offering that too, Eric. So I also wanted to get into, you also read the Akashic Record as well?
Yeah. Reading it is one thing, and anybody who reads it will tell you they're also living it at the same time. And lately, as of recently, I realized there's more empowerment in when the person's ready. Different than, and I'm not the one deciding when they're ready. As a matter of fact, their guides are the ones that are deciding. And then there's councils of light that are coinciding. And when I say ready, I mean the recent awareness of empowerment I've come to bring about is there's much more in both giving people a reading, a psychic reading, an Akashic Record reading, combined with showing them themselves how to read and hone in and align into the Akashic Records themselves. Now, there's different varying levels and degrees of Akashic Records. I will say some of those varying levels and degrees right now. You have your own personal or Akashic Records, and then you have your interpersonal Akashic Records of all the people in your immediate field within first, second, third, and many degrees of separation. Then you have all the people that you used to know, and then all the people you might know. And then there's the land or the house you're living in has its own Akashic Records that reverberates. And then the towns are funny. Towns will even have sometimes their own aura, just like houses will have their own aura. And it goes on bigger levels to state, region, state, to eventually planetary Akashic Records. And then you have the solar Akashic Records, solar system wide. And we're told that there's only, 9 planets in our solar system, but I've seen where there's about 70, about 66 is that prime master number. 70 is where there's certain planet-sized ships that are almost as big as planets that will come and go. It's like huge motherships. So I've seen it more as a number of 70 or higher, different planetary solar system-wide Akashic Records. Depending on the question or the insights that come in before a reading is done, will determine what I start experiencing days prior, if not years prior, before even meeting that client or that soul family friend. Clients are, in my opinion, sometimes a bit different than someone you choose to be your immediate friend and soul family kin. You know, your immediate friend and soul family kin will come with you and come to you in equal energy exchange. Clients, on the other hand, and I've come to this realization, there's a secondary and a third tertiary type of soul family, which they're not your primary soul family, even though we're one soul, one planetary soul. But if they come at me, or any one of us for that matter, with so much polarized drama and woundedness, you're like, whoa, 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 stop. Okay, if you want to learn more, this is the boundary. I am here for paid services, anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, or even I'm not limiting myself to amount of time or to the level and degree of what I can teach, such as I'm even just as much so ready to teach entire workshops, weekend workshops. And when you're giving someone a reading, or when I'm giving someone a reading, and then they tap into those questions that they've always wanted to know, or those mystical experiences they always wanted to have more clarity on, or even something as simple as, what's my divine purpose? How do I refine my divine purpose and my divine blueprint? The other really typical question I get is about past lives. Past lives come up a lot. We have a good deal of past life regression therapists out there, including different systems and healings and modalities. And one of the best past life regression therapists I know is Debbie Smart. And she herself doesn't just give you one reading and that's it. There's different courses and levels and varying degrees of reaching these different onion peels of the soul, or different levels and onion peels of the Akashic records. And then the last two, clients I had / soul family, I was actually more appreciative that they were more like soul family than just some random, because they will handle the higher multidimensional information and super consciousness a lot easier. And those people are not only ready to get a reading, they're ready to be taught and shown in guided meditation how to reach their own internal Akashic records and their, I'll call it, omni external, which originates either in the center of the earth or the sun. And the sun gives off these different vortices of information, and the vortices of information, from what I've gathered, originate from what are none other than these solar cities of light. There are literally cities of light within the sun. Why would we think Earth is the only place, even in the solar system, that has inhabited life? The sun itself has some plasmic beings that are inhabiting life. And in that sun, or the local sun, there's one or many, what I could consider cities of light, what to me look like palaces or cathedrals, that the person is immediately aligned to in their solar Christ consciousness, or their Solarian energy. They start to hone in on it in the guided meditation, and then bing, they lock on to their own personal cathedral, their own personal palace or temple of information. They zero in on it, and before you know it, the door is wide open. The heart is wide open. The pineal gland of the mind is wide open. They can start to see, read, hear, and sense the Akashic pulse and the Akashic records, as well as their guides. The most touching thing out of this whole experience as a recent was reuniting people with their guides, and then them finally starting to hear their spirit guides again, and finally know what their spirit guides are asking or showing them to do. And then each time there's usually a unique center point or column of energy, a scroll, a book, very metaphorical but literal at the same time. And they go right to it. They either open it, unlock it, unravel it. It gets interpreted by any number of their higher spiritual guides. And then before I know it, or before they know it, they begin to read that first impulse of that first time they ever decided to be a soul on the planet. And they get to read and learn why they're in this life, in this present life. We can get lost in our past lives or get lost in some random probable future timelines, but they get to relearn and re-empower and re-remember why they came here in this moment. And I've learned on average, out of the last two people I've guided them through, it's taken about 2 to 3 hours to really get it all fully, thoroughly complete and done. And those 3 hours are priceless, but at the same time very valuable time and energy I put in guiding them on a vision quest and getting to them to that frequency of when they get to experience their own Akashic pulse and Akashic information and Akashic records. And it's a living, tangible, breathing essence. To me, it is, and I'm sure to many others. And I empower anybody that's a reader or a healer. If you're truly authentically healing someone, we know that it sometimes takes multiple sessions. And at the same time, I think one of the best things that some of us can do is not only get a session and get paid for it. The money is great and all, abundance, flow with the abundance, but teaching them in some manner or form how you read the Akashic records or how you heal or how you proclaim this energy of healing. And sometimes for us, it's taken years to get to that level. And we know that for others, it doesn't necessarily have to take years. It can be leaps and bounds in quantum consciousness to show them how to read their own divine blueprint again. And hopefully, intentionally, even though they may be clients that pay, they won't necessarily have to come to you. But if they do, and it's a monthly basis, I'm more than welcome of that. And I'm more than welcome and I appreciate that if someone does come to me for a reading and also a guided meditation in the Akashic records, so as long as they know it's at least minimum 3 hours dedicated amount of time meditating for 3 hours. Sometimes people have a hard time meditating for 15 minutes and going right into that solar energy. And sometimes it's devoid and sometimes it's filled with tons and tons of information, visions, and signs. And either way, it still leads to the same result. And that result is sovereign empowerment. And that result is them finally being able to emanate their divine blueprint in the fullness of their expression, and hopefully with great intention at their peak vitality and their peak performance. So they're not only healthy in body, they're healthy in mind, spirit, and soul. Yeah.
Exactly. Very, very well shared. Is my voice?
I can't hear you. Are you there?
He's kind of garbled.
No, Ryan, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me, Eric?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to show you this picture that I got from Sedona.
Oh,
because it kind of reminds me of your grid with the sacred geometry, but the way the artist made the pictures, they're very, I think it was supposed to be like fifth dimensional. And when you described your grid being made more permanent with tiles or mosaic tiles or stone, or something where it could be laid in the ground or it could be hung on the wall, I think the possibilities for the creativity there are endless, but I think the key part, a lot of it, is the sacred geometry. And I know you're very well aware, but I feel like anytime I've had glimpses of like higher dimensional energies, they always had sacred geometries.
Yeah.
And that's got to be a piece. That's very important, and especially with the crystalline energy. And I've been, here in Ohio working with these grids and with the Serpent Mound and a lot of the other grids. I don't know what happened to your friend. Maybe he's going to try to log back on so people can hear him better, but maybe this isn't for everybody. There he is. But those, when you said you were going to tap into the ancient grids, or your friend, I'm not sure if it was Ryan or another friend, said they were
Hello,
tuning
are you
into
still
the
there?
ancient grids.
Ryan?
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I had my mobile device die on me, so I'm just now turning it on. I'd have to reconnect.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and pause the recording, and I can unpause it after I have my device on. So I'd like everyone who is watching, just go ahead and take a break. I'm gonna pause this, and then in the archive, it'll just cut right back on.
Okay.
Have music to fade out.